Well, welcome everybody to UXSA's Community June Meetup. The run of the show is on the right side of the schedule. I'm going to go through a few slides at the introduction of our group to those that are new. Thanks for coming. And then we will get into the presentation. And then we have a door prize after the Q&A for presentation. And then we have some time for networking and closing, and that's completely optional. But we will be asking for your participation and questions and things like that to respond to throughout the presentation. So let's get going. All right. So just to introduce UXSA, it's UX San Antonio. It's just because we're based here. We were originally brought together to showcase San Antonio talent, but COVID changed everything, and we were just we opened the doors to everyone. So we know that humans create culture by default or intention, and we certainly want to be intentional. And our intention is to be supportive of curiosity and growth and networking and inclusion. And we want to be the safe place for you to feel like you can ask questions and express your thoughts and reach out and connect with us. We have a Slack channel, and I'll share that contact information later, but just want you to know that we are intentionally want to do this, and we hope that you feel that way. So UXSA leadership, my name is Sherry and I'm the president, and Paula is our VP of marketing. And then Adrienne, who is on the call, is our VP of digital operations. She handles our website and all of our designs. And then Susan Price is also here. She presented last month. And then she's also Fiesta for the Mind board advisor. She's on our leadership team as an advisor. She's on the board for FFTM, and they also support Creative Mornings and TEDx San Antonio. So we're so happy to have her with us, and she's on the call today too. We also wanted to call out some volunteers who have helped us tremendously this past month. And one of them is Bianca, who's on the call. She's done some wonderful work in our survey. And we are so grateful for all the time she's put in for that. And then Pooja also, I don't think she's on the call yet, but they have both been working on some research work that we have did within our groups for COVID, and going back into in-person meetings. And they have been able to help us analyze that and to spend a lot of hours on it. So because of that, because of their time, we do give our volunteers some swag, so they'll be able to pick from the swag here, or as well as our speakers. And we try to give a thank you for your time with us. And there's other ways to connect with us. As I mentioned, there's a Slack, and Adrienne will be sharing the invitation in the chat, in the Zoom chat. We have a Facebook page, we have a LinkedIn page, and we have a YouTube channel, which we have all of our videos, like the one I'm recording now, will be put up on our YouTube channel, and you can see all of the previous ones that we had as well. We have the meetup, which I'm sure you met us through here, and we have a website that has a link to all of these as well. And I believe we're trying to work on getting an Eventbrite page. So we're trying to grow slowly, but steady. We do have some donations that we have been able to keep us going for these past 2 years. And the 80/20 Foundation is a wonderful one that helps all three of the groups with the Fiesta for the Mind. And Susan is at Firecat Studios. She donates a lot of her time and effort, and we couldn't be here without her. And Pressable donated the space for our website to be hosted. And we also have private donations. We have people who give us donations each month, and you can donate to us through our website. We have a donation button. that we just recently put up a couple months ago. So we're excited about that. We also had
one thing about that, Sherry.
Sure.
AT&T and USAA, we are listed. Fiesta for the Mind is listed as one of the charities that you can select if you happen to work in one of those places or someone in your household does. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. Okay. But USAA gave us we can get monthly from them as well, but they also sponsored some events for us when we first started, so we wanted to make sure they got a shout out. All right, so while we're all here is Ling Lee, who is a principal designer at Dell Technologies. She has a presentation on working with leaders who don't get UX, and I'm really excited to hear what she has to say, so I will stop sharing and let her take over.
Okay, thank you. I'll get ready.
Okay.
Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, it looks great.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be here, and especially being here at UX San Antonio. This is my first, and I introduced to a group of lovely ladies, and so I want to take this opportunity and also learn something that in my area, and so I'm really grateful to be here. First of all, so I am working at Dell Technologies as a senior principal designer, and besides, outside of work, I have 6 kids and a cat, and I also have a few grandkids, and I love cooking and enjoy singing and painting and also traveling. And a tidbit, a fun bit about myself is my next culinary challenge is to make mooncakes. So here I am in the picture that you see. I am getting ready for a marathon, and I'm running like a marathon is really like running a UX project. So I hope you're ready to go on this marathon with me. To begin this, let's take a refresh. I know a lot of you have seen this from your readings and exposures to UX work, and what you're looking at is a revision from Norman and Neil Group in 2021. And basically, it's a change from 8 phases of UX maturity to 6 stages of UX maturity. And so stage 1 is UX doesn't exist in your company, and the stage 2 is kind of where it's limited. So imagine you're in a company that is designed by committee, or it's a developer-centric kind of user experience. And you could be there, just sitting there, and people probably don't know what you do. And in emergent stage 3, where you start to design like functional and designs, and it looks really promising, but it's kind of spotty, like inconsistently, or in some projects, but some that just kind of bypass UX. And you're asked to do a lot of skunk work. Hey, can you fix this? It's we need a button here, we need a color there. Yeah, this reminds me a lot of my working environment in the past, unfortunately. Stage 4, structured. This is partially systematic and almost like a widespread kind of practice. And then stage 5 is it's comprehensive, it's expected, and UX is a core part of the core team. And the last stage is user driven. And basically user experience is the business strategy. And what you're looking at, this is a starburst effect on a level, the highest level, the level 5 company, user centric driven companies. And this is a survey that has been done in 2018 by Leah Boulay. And I respect this author quite a bit. And this survey crosses 2,200 companies and 24 sectors. And so if you're lucky to work in a company like this, all these disciplines and tools and systems and partners and employees, they know and they are eager to work with you as a UX practitioner. And the importance of UX cannot be understated. And it has an effect basically on every single employee in the company and its departments, and not just only matters to designers and technology departments. And if you want your business to grow, and it's important that this basically user experience has to be addressed basically head on from day one, and involving all aspects. For example, marketing strategies, and they are affected by when there's no user experience research done before implementation. So let's circle back on how do I work with cross-functional leaders that just don't get UX, that are in a less mature company. Let's look at another way of this, another view of this survey. That only 5% of the companies, they reach this visionary level. And it has this secret sauce. And I have on the PowerPoint that there are 3 bullets. And the first one is integrate design to elevate strategy and increase market share and surge employee impact. And the second one is the healthy ratio between designer and developer. 1:5 ratio. And then lastly, I think this part is very important too, is that design systems are commonly adopted and the user research is conducted. So when I looked at my career the last over 20 some years, I have to say that I have worked in most of I fit in that 95% of the companies in my last 20 years in various different shapes and forms. So here, this is a slide, is very emotional and personal to me. And you probably feel the same way. Some of you, I would say most of you work in that 95% levels of companies where the design is kind of spotty. That's not really integrated with the business strategy. And then you probably work with, say, 20 developers. You're just trying to, barely surviving, trying to, swim above water. And you probably, are not working with a well-supported design team or design systems to support on all the components and designs and patterns that you would like to have. And this is also one of the slides I love as well, is that they did a survey and asking design teams like, hey, what have you shaped in the companies you worked at? And this 5% elite or visionaries, they claim they have set the standards for the whole entire market and industry. So when I was looking at this, I was like, I thought Apple can be like a company in this space. Maybe Amazon, AWS cloud can be in the cloud space because they basically have the whole piece of pie. And then there is like Google for search. So we can easily name a few companies that their design teams can proudly say they have shaped the standards in that space. Now, let's circle back and kind of look at, I'm sorry, let me, I lost my slide. Let me go to the right one. Okay. Now, let's look at level 5, take another deeper dive. Why these companies in level 5 are, so confident and they can actually have ability to set that standard. The research shows that 92% of these level 5 companies, they can claim or they draw a straight line from their design team efforts to revenue. And it depends on which sector you're working in. Say, if you e-commerce, you probably also need to add conversions and increase sales and build brand credibility and referrals. All that is kind of funnel up to revenue increase. So now reflecting on ourselves, one of us, most of us working in that 95% of the companies, how we work with our cross-functional teammates is crucial. That we can build a success for the company and for our users. So these 4 groups of players or cross-functional teams that I have worked with them on a daily basis. So the first one is executives and partners, and the second is product managers, and we have developers and architects and the designers. So let's quickly kind of dive into the executives. And these people are, busybodies, and usually they are looking at their charts and data and revenues, and they're looking at their phones. They're not really paying attention to your designs and stuff like that. Oh, I'm just saying from my personal experience, I have, it's really hard to get their attention. So my suggestion is, the first one is, out of these busy executives, you have to find your champion and identify your VP. And what are the tips behind that? Find a VP that basically is the decision maker to decide the design, the product direction and strategy. And this VP hopefully has strong design background. And the thirdly is find an opportunity to work with them or have a meeting with them and talk about their sort of business KPIs. And then align your design KPIs to their business KPIs. Another thing I used in the past is, hey, executive, do you know that we are actually at a level 3 company in terms of mature UX maturity? And they were like, what are you talking about? This is new to me. And usually I will put them in front of them, companies, or actually I will have a measurement of our products, UX maturity, and I'll basically draft it and I'll show them. I'll say, hey, out of my audit and study on our products, and this is where we are in the UX maturity as a company. And these are obstacles. I think you as a design executive should know or help the design UX department to grow with the product team and other teams. And the next tip is educate your advocates. So once I identify my champion, usually they're SVPs of the company, and when I'm building that relationship with them, I will also start working or identify advocates. And usually advocates are their direct reports. So they are like directors of engineering, directors of product management, and directors of marketing, and business intelligence. And also I love working with directors of support and services. So I basically, have say, hey, first visit, one-on-one introduction of myself and what I do at the company, or how I can help them. besides all this, I start working with them on their KPIs and their goals and their roadmaps. And then learn from these roadmaps how synergetic between the different departments or disparate gaps in between. And then I will start working with them on how design can help them close these gaps and have their support on design funding. And then, of course, sometimes they say, you need to talk to, I'm not in charge of like design team, it's a product management, but I can speak for you. Or if you want me to, throw in a few tidbits about from marketing perspective, how design can help us, I'm willing to also, speak up or fund some of that funding. So sometimes it's like a joint effort. Sticky here, I think it's also kind of very important to me, how dear to my heart, is about foster a culture of curiosity. So during my one-on-one with executives, usually I build a relationship with them already. They know who I am. They trust that they're not going to waste time having this one-on-one with me. I will talk about how I need them or executives to set up basically a role model, and and foster this culture of, hey, it's okay to think out of the box, and we actually encourage you to ask questions, encourage you to explore, and then we have workshops set up with UX team, and that you can go in and explore with them. And I usually invite our executives to attend. Usually you have to work really hard around their schedule and get a whole company or departments to involve. And the executives, I'll give them crayons and papers, and they start sketching. This is a fun way for the top-down approach to show our executives how they value design and how she or them support this culture of curiosity. I also invite them to be my special guests in our design talk. And they're busy individuals, so I often offer to prepare their presentation deck, like a few minutes. They can come in, and then I also will ask designers to show prototypes. So that's pairing designs and explorations with executives is very powerful presentation to all the cross-functional teams. And then last, this one is about building our roadmap. I usually like to have very informal, rapid sketching, prototyping, sticky notes kind of exercise with executives and managers. And sometimes we get to good results, and sometimes it's just conversational starters, and we will have breakaway sessions later on. And brown bag is where I will also invite executives and managers to show up because being busy as they are, they probably can attend my UX workshop every session, but most of the time they're able to attend brown bags. So this is where I invite designers, say, hey, let's show the world and our executives what we have done and what we can do. And it's also, very important to invite cross-functional leaders as well. So a lot of engineering folks will be there. They're curious about, what design is basically done and bring to our engineering camp. And we show user research findings, and we also forecast what the next, say, month or two, what we're going to do, and we basically ask for participation for our user research and user testings. So I remember and one job that they don't remember anything that I did there, but they remember the brown bags, how fun it was. All right, so next group of people that probably don't get product managers will be product managers. And how product managers perceive design predetermines how they work with you. And they, is design just mere operational, or is it tactical or strategic? So if you're given a chance to interview, to hire a product manager, I recommend that you pay attention to their experiences if they have, worked with UX design or design teams in the past, and they understand the design process. And then when we onboard UX product managers to the company or to the team, the onboarding training is also very important. Where here in the training, I would kind of talk about, say, hey, this is what we have done from the design team, and this is what we're going to get into. And I'll also walk through the design process and also the roles of responsibilities. And this part is kind of touchy, because a lot of product managers, they will think, okay, I own the product / experiences. So some of them actually like to or used to dictate, what the product kind of experiences should be. So here, when I talk about roles and responsibilities, say, hey, the PMs owns the whys and the what, and the designers and the developers are responsible for the hows. And then I'll give a few examples, kind of what that means in real life. And sometimes I get a few nods in the training, and sometimes they were like, okay, Ling, we'll see how it goes. So next is UX workshop. So here I will bring the PMs in, and then we'll do a workshop on personas and roles and use cases and stickies, and I'll accompany with user research. And some of them, they will say, hey, can we agile this? Can we just, jump to the screens? And I like to have the screens by, say, next week. So here I would, say, okay, let's talk about, why you need it, and let me know if how we can put rapid experiments behind that, if timing is an issue. And then I also talked about how UIs, if they are not being validated, that's really not, a UX kind of, is not user experience or not UX. And then I'll also start to probe how we could, in terms of timeline, if I work with a PM like that, like framing on say, when do you need this delivered by? And then how important it is that we have UX research kind of done before that. So let's plan ahead so we are able to do this. And this, the third one, design QA. And in a lot of companies I worked at in the past are also very important. I often, will talk about design forward, this concept with designers. Hey, when we deliver our designs to the engineering team, to the products, our job is not really done. Our job will continue at least to the design QA phase. And some of them will say, hey, they work in different environments. So I will work with the PMs, say, hey, PMs, we work in, say, Figma, and then you guys work in some other tool, and how can we work in the integrated kind of experience, so we can look at what's being built in staging, then come back fluidly or in real time with our feedback. in time for the engineering or developers to enhance or debug. And that has paid off a lot when I work with PMs and engineering so they can see that we're making progress in an agile way, and then the design quality boosts as a result. So when working with product managers that don't understand UX, through these exercises and conversations and integrations and doing this design QA, they start to understand that UX is not just delivering pretty UIs. UX is everywhere, from the beginning of ideation also to the end of the product experience and implementation. Next one, the next one is brown bag again. I love to do brown bag and then show and tell because this is a happy time, and this is where all the cross-functional team come together. And this is also when I will invite a lot of cross-functional leaders to this. Another way experience I had is brown bag outside of a meeting. So we'll have blog set up in the community, and we will have, give out prizes, gift certificates, or even money and a recognition to best ideas posted by the cross-functional employees or anyone working in the company. So this is something basically, again, that create that culture of curiosity, and also, basically get rid of the boundaries between departments is the key. All right, I hope you guys are still, staying with me in this marathon, and we're about halfway done. So now we have, worked with the executives and worked with the product managers that don't quite get UX or not like seeing eye to eye with you, and to a point that they say, oh, you're helping us or changing the culture in a positive way, that don't forget, you also need to work with the developers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this group of folks, and I have to say this is one of the lovely groups that I work with, and it's rare for me, personal experience, to find developers that just don't get UX, and developers appreciate design, especially designs validated by research, and they love organized, documented, production-ready designs and prototypes, and moreover, they will love it even more if you invite them to user testing sessions. And so this tip integration workshop, this is they'd love to kind of learn about, hey, there's design systems and components and frameworks, and I can use the unified code base. And I can reuse these code. I don't have to build them from scratch, and they loved to be in a workshop like this, and develop and designers as well, especially the full stack designers that also code. This is, I find, a great kind of area where designers and developers are almost like doing the same type of work, because they are both creatively like solving the same problem together. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. And this design and engineering management alignment, this is very important for a design leader. What I say that is that engineering, they have their own roadmap to build their technology stack in the back. And then in designers, when you have that kind of knowledge to understand the technology capabilities and constraint, then it's easier to understand the sandbox kind of, hey, I can push my design in this near term kind of future, say this quarter, but when the capability extends to, say, another next level, then I can actually do more in my extend my user experience. Or you can also persuade the technology leaders, say, hey, this is the roadmap. This is for design. This is what we're being tested. We got scores to prove, say NPS score or SAS score, and we have tested over 300 users, interviews and surveys. You have ability to tell a story to shape the sort of the future technology stack to basically go to so they can have the capability to support the future kind of experience, validated experience. And this one is kind of continuation of what we talked about. Once you have alignment with the engineering team, their technical, let's say, technology leaders and SVPs understand their roadmap, you have a seat at the table to influence or drive their roadmap. This becomes a synergetic kind of reunion where you could invite these technology leaders and also their engineering to participate in the UX research. And most of the time, I found they love to participate or listening to a user session, and they love to hear or learn the findings, because they understand when we validate our designs with research, there's a lot, they can reduce a lot of rework. They can, and also they can reduce a lot of design bugs that way. And lastly, working with the engineering folks is to just be human, be real, and socialize with them. And it doesn't mean that they get to like design, the user experience. You just let them do whatever they want. It's really like, hey, I understand kind of what you do. You understand what I do, but I'm still the owner of product experience, user experience. But this is a team sports. That we need to work together and bring our best to the table and respecting each other's crafts. And lastly, designers. So here, when I address designers, there are different types of designers who come from many backgrounds. I mean, 20 some years ago, I had a language center in Taiwan. I was a teacher teaching English as a second language. So here, what I referring to designers, there could be newbies like design interns or junior designers, or graphic designers, or product managers just love to design, but actually thinking about to become a designer. And then there's all developers that they are thinking about changing their career to be designers. And I know some of them successfully actually transition to become designers. So I'm referring to these type of designers. And so how do I work with designers in this space? I think that, there are a few points I would like to mention. And then the first one is UX is without research, it is not UX. So, on the screen, you can see, to catch up for the example, you probably have seen this before. UI is a pretty face, it's well designed, and everything's perfect. And UX is actually, it's a union of how you function, how you serve the users, and also aesthetically pleasing. So UX requires a lot of lean experiments, right? And then you do closed door designs without research is just never UX. And I think the second most important tip, at least I remind myself every day, is empathy. Empathy thinking is basically you have to advocate for the users, and it's the first step of design thinking. And we need to think about using kind of empathy and as basically it's a driving force in every phase of your design. So sometimes when designers get into so deeply in their wireframes and designs on their pixels, making it perfect and beautiful and all that, we forget about who we serve. So we need to constantly kind of remind ourselves and also mentor the future designers about empathy. Design with accessibility in mind, which is very important to be inclusive. The next one is the importance of research-driven insights. So here, the differentiation between a UI and UX is, let's give a kind of real-world example. PM say, hey, this looks beautiful. It's done. That's just, and plus we need to build this. Can we just give it, hand this over to the engineering, say, this week? And so how we learn, how we train these designers, say, hey, UX, what we need to do now is really to validate this beautiful design. There are a lot of assumptions that made here, and there's high risk that if we don't put this in front of our actual users or send out a survey to validate against the build, against these assumptions. And basically constructively push back with our counterparts on the engineering side. And then mention, that this could be a lot of rework if you take this on. And let's sit down and plan against a reasonable timeline where I can factor in the user research. Maybe we can do a quick research on top of this, so we feel more confident to go forth with what we suggested here. So this one, educate and influence. This is where designers become powerful when you, especially around the designers that they're kind of looking up, say, hey, I want to be an experienced UX designer. That's something they see that, hey, you don't have to, be a designer, UX designer the next day, but you can learn and you have this power to influence your counterparts. And by doing a lot of mini research, for 95% of us that don't work in the level 5 companies, and some of us don't have a lot of funding for research or no time for research, I suggest to do mixed methods. For example, you can ask questions like, hey, what are the key tasks people perform on my website? And then to answer this, you look at analytics and you understand how people navigate through the page and conduct user research to better understand and how they use the page and why they use the page. And then you basically tell the story. Become a story to tell your counterparts, engineers, or even share with the designers that don't quite get you at UX, walk through them. So I'm going to show you this slide. This is a company I worked with in the past. And I was the first UX manager there. I'm building a new team. So here, put a focus on the user to tell a story about how Sean, the show off, how he wants to become buffer and leaner, and because this is something he really cares about in this engagement life cycle, from the sort of the basic to the deluxe flow. And this is something that we could back up with a lot of research and reports and surveys and data to tell the story. So it has legs going through the cycle, and they will then use this to start coming up with sketches and flows or designs after that. Well, I hope you're still with me in the marathon. And this is the final stretch, I promise. So the last section I would like to talk about is funding strategy. Most of us don't work in level 5 company. It's always a challenge to get right size the team so we can have a UX researcher, we can have UX writers, strategists on the team. So the take-home message on this, I know we have a lot of like techniques and skills or knowledge behind it, but in my mind, I think the most important is you have to tie your work closely to a quantifiable revenue increases and all cost reductions. Because this will be alignment or the beginning of our story to communicate with our business executives or our champions that are in charge of funding. So budget planning. There are a few tricks on this. The ones that I used in the past is you find out about your company forecast, revenue forecast, and the revenue that has been generated the last few years. You start to see trends and use that trend to work with your budget planning for your team. And then timing is very important too. Say, hey, if your company fiscal year is the first quarter, you need to plan this a year before, like 2 quarters ahead or 3 quarters ahead. Then start to have a conversation with your executives in charge of funding and your managers or directors. Say, hey, this is what I have studied. Let's just say if our revenue raised 16% last year, and this year we're projecting 20%. So the design team needs organically expand by 20% minimum. And then if there are new products coming or accelerated products that need to have accelerated growth, then we need to have more designers supporting these tracks. So basically the idea is you plan ahead, like 2 or 3 quarters ahead. And then when you come to the next year, basically the funding, if you don't get 100%, hopefully 80% is in place. So it's easier to tap into that resource, that budget, when it's there already for you to use, than asking for money, in the midstream of the year. So I think timing is important, and also working on the revenue growth of the company is important. And then also you need to work at a company that is growth oriented. So I think a lot of factors need to come in this space to make this work. And then this is, again, very important to find an advocate that believes in UX research and UX design. And that is also a decision maker on the board. And I think that this part is probably given, since all of us are UX designers and researchers, is that we need to highlight the problem space that the prototypes or MVP is solving, and demonstrate that and showcase the value proposition and the proposed design plan. And this part, Magic 3, this is also I learned over the years. This is also really good to be part of the proposal plan. That you give the executives or funders 3 options. So minimal team that come with high risk, and then medium team. Usually what I mean is the headcounts. With a moderate risk, and then also the optimal team to produce desired outcome. And basically you break it down, like how many heads I need for each size, then what they can be working on, and then talk about the risk and outcomes based on that. And then lastly is the pitch. So ask for the money and show how you're going to spend it, and also what success looks like. So, in a real world challenge, advocates. So, I'm kind of, having this challenge right now, actually, in my work, is that sometimes, there's advocates that they don't understand UX. They see us as UI, like designers. So they're not willing to invest in UX research. So minimal, usually out of the magic 3 plans, they will pick the minimal funding because they just don't value or don't understand UX research. They don't need a writer. They just want you to crank out screens. Basically, it's a level 1 or 2 kind of mindset. So here, what we need to emphasize, hey, we need to validate our design, and UX, the most important part is the UX research and to gain user insight. And keep telling that story. Keep, bringing up the revenue is directly affected by the design investment. And that has been proven by 2,200 companies in the world. Okay, I promised I hope we are. I hope all of you are along with me, and we just finish this at the finish line, and we did this together. It's a team sport, and we cheer each other on, and then we go through the highs and the lows through this kind of UX journey. Lastly, I want to kind of tell you a story. So this is many years ago when I was working at an agency in LA, and Toyota hired our agency to redesign Toyota.com, and they have worked with a few agencies and also went to the internal design team and all that and do a redesign, and they failed because the revenue didn't really meet their projection. So out of desperation, they continued to hire. So they hired our agency, and they say, hey, you take time to do research. We are going to fund you, say, $1 million to a few $1 million just to do design for the whole year. Don't do design, to do research for a whole year. So we took time, methodically, carefully, strategically, we performed UX research. And I was, my job title at the time was a senior information architect. So I worked with a few researchers. So I will, produce simulations and organize information, and then basically put it in front of our users and then learn from that. And then when after the website or application launched, I remember my car, was a Toyota car. It was like pretty bad, in bad shape. And I thought, I'm thinking about buying check out new Toyota. So I went to the dealer, and when I entered the door, the dealership, and there was an old guy standing there too, like waiting. So we're like just standing there. And then the dealers came out, and the old guy just, said, hey, yesterday, this weekend, I was looking around at your website, and I clicked around, and it's a really nice site, and I really enjoyed it. So I figured if your site is so nice, and you must sell really nice, good cars. So here I am. I'm ready to buy a car. But he didn't know I was the lead designer on that. Just recently launched this Toyota.com redesign. And when I heard that, and it really brought a lot of joy in what we do. So, I want to encourage all of us, all of you, that this is a journey. And then, there are hidden gems here and there along the way. And you're serving real people that really benefit from your research, from your explorations, from your design. And in this journey, it's not easy. Sometimes I joke around. You have to go through 5 phases, of grief, right? Sometimes you just so like, what am I doing? You start to self-doubt. You start to, you know, kind of in self-denial. Sometimes you get angry and you're depressed. But in the end, you're going to have the afterglow. You're going to find hidden gems. You're going to, you know, have new partners along the way in this UX journey. So this is my presentation. Thank you so much. And I am going to move to the FAQ.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ling. That was really great, and a reminder to some of us who've been around for a while, you know, through the whole process of how to get advocates and all of that. I want to know if I can go ahead and launch the poll so we can see who we have in the audience, just to give you an idea of who we're speaking with here. Y'all go ahead and answer your poll. There's 2 questions. There's one about where you are in your career, and then what specialty interest do you have? Go ahead and got 12 participants. All right. Great. All right. So we have 4 that are, I think we've got everybody. All right, so I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So it looks like we have 4 seniors, 3 mid, 2 associate, 1 entry and 1 newbie. And then we have most people in research and strategy, and then design. So great. Okay.
Nice, very nice.
So
we got everyone here.
Yeah, got a mixture there.
Mm-hmm.
So your talk was actually, you know, really geared towards more of a senior mid-level group, and I'm grateful that that's who are here. So I'm wondering if y'all have any questions, or if there's anything y'all need clarity on. This is the time to ask. Just unmute yourself and ask. Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you, Ling. That was a fantastic presentation. I have seeking advice that's sort of wrapped in the question, and your story about Toyota feeds perfectly into it. I currently work at an agency, and the UX immaturity is not so much within the agency, but with clients. So I was curious about how you contend, I guess, with that layer of immaturity that's already 1 degree removed, and how do you build relationships to foster that increasing awareness of good UX that needs to happen very quickly and often in a time frame of a single project?
Let's say so this is just from my experience, to be an active listener and really listen to their need, and then gather any data they have, and then go home and do homework on that, and don't quick to solution, but keep asking questions, and then create an environment where I don't know how often you go back and work with this group. You mentioned agency. So you probably have a few workshops, and I'm guessing maybe do you work on site, or do you go there on a weekly basis, or what is the interaction? Michelle?
It sort of varies. Like sometimes you're kind of plopped into a project where a lot of those workshops have already been conducted. So it is very project based. So sometimes you do have that opportunity to have those questions, but a lot of times, depending on the project, you're sort of plopped in, and those questions were already asked, or they were, but you sort of don't really know the answer. And then if you kind of go back to the client to ask, they've already answered that to somebody else in a different way, and it's kind of difficult to kind of re-engage that.
Yeah, definitely there are gaps. I would try to gather all the information possible, or you need to kind of identify who the point of contact is, and that person needs to collect all the information possible, or all the answers, basically collect them all together so you can synthesize on the right amount of information. So that could be your leader. It could be someone counterpart in this company. So that would be sort of the first one. Maybe first step I'll do and find the basically point of contact, and also in that company. Maybe you guys have identify who the D is, who the decision maker is, or find your champion. Make sure, if possible, you align with the champion, because that will be half of your battle there. Start with that. With the right set of data, someone who has collected all this data, so you're confident about kind of what you're studying against. Then with the champion, basically, making the decision basically on the behalf of the organization already. So if you can have these two in your bag, I would say half of your job is done.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, feel free to continue this conversation on Slack if you have any additional questions. Ling is on our Slack channel, and we can all get her the questions to you, or the answers to you if needed. But I wanted to point out a few things. Ling, you mentioned that you really need to tie your work to KPIs. And that is really, really challenging, and there are courses on it, and how to communicate with the business leaders and things like that. And it's such a challenge because you need to understand them, but to make your point, you have to have empathy with them and what do they need. And I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Delta CX, Debbie Levitt. She calls us the low ego superheroes, because we cannot have egos in this job. You have to be humbled and curious and forgiving and very agile in your approach with people, and be able to communicate. And that's what UX is a communication tool, whichever method you choose. And I just wanted to point that out, that I've seen this over and over again. So don't think that you can't have a princess in UX. You just really can't.
So it's well said. So it's so true. It's not a linear process. It's really a tool chest that of tricks and tools and cheat sheets, whatever you have. You just take out whatever you think you need, so you can become more agile working with them, and build that relationship. And get to the KPIs that basically align, everybody agree to align to.
Right. And it's so hard to tell people, I'm going to make you more money and I'm going to reduce your risk, and I'm going to make this better if you just let me do my job. And it's been, for a long time when I was first in UX, we felt like it was us against them. It was the fighter for the users. We fight for the users and advocate for the users against the business, which is not true. We need to be a bridge between the users and the business, to find out what both of them need. And I have actually had a conversation with a VP when I first started at this new job that I'm at. And I said, he's like, well, can you tell me what you do? And I said, well, first of all, I want to know what keeps you up at night. What bothers you the most about this project? And he had to take a moment, and it's like nobody's ever asked him that before, you know. So and now he's an advocate for me. So he used to be against the development team because he was burned in the past. So you can change their hearts a little bit and get them on your side if you just show them a little empathy and, like you said, be human. So thank you so much for reminding us of all of this and sharing this with us. And we do have this on recording, so you can share this with your team as well.